Ďakujem, everyone. As usual, before starting today's sermon, let us take a moment to pay homage to the Perfect One, our Lord Buddha, by chanting the Namaskar 3 times. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Okay. First and foremost, Happy New Year, everyone. And I'm sorry last time I wasn't able to attend the sermon. It's because I was on a plane to the US, which is where we are now. So we're in Los Angeles. So when we hear Los Angeles and what we are familiar with Los Angeles, that's not what I'm experiencing right now. We are here in a house. All we saw was the airport and then the house. And I think yesterday we did a sermon in a library. So that's it. So not really living the LA kind of lifestyle. But yeah, so we're in LA. So I think for the first time ever, I think I am somewhere I'm sort of ahead of you guys, but in terms of the path, I mean, like, in terms of time, I'm about 8 hours ahead of you guys, 8.5 hours ahead of you. So yeah, so it's nice to finally do this sermon in the morning. Usually I do this at midnight in Sri Lanka. So yeah. So yeah, apologies I couldn't attend, but you were lucky to have 𝗕𝗏𝗶 Thero, who did the sermon last week. He's the vice principal of our school, and he's in India right now doing his PhD. Because last time because it was the 31st night, and I was kind of afraid that we had to cancel the sermon because everybody else in the monastery was so busy, all the Theros, because they were busy with, as you know, 31st night is even in the monastery, it's a big deal. That's like so lots are happening on the 31st. There was the loving kindness meditation chanting that happened, and as well as there were about 2,000 people in the monastery. So all the monks pretty much were busy with, like, they were like 2 or 3 different teams doing the cooking because they had to make milk rice. So there was a different team making the milk rice. There was 2 different teams making the alms for that day and for the following day. So basically, everybody in the monastery was super busy. And luckily, we had 3 monks who were outside of the monastery. So they're in the Sai village doing their PhD. So luckily, they were available. And because we were planning on canceling the sermon, and I didn't think anyone would turn up, to be fair, because you don't have your 31st parties and stuff like that. So, but I'm really surprised, in a way, not surprised, but surprised that a lot of you have turned up to the sermon. So I think even last time we had I've watched the sermon, so we had about 16 to 20 people. So that's still pretty good numbers considering it was 31st night and everyone had parties to go to. I think in a way it's very convenient that this sermon is at 7, so you could still participate in the sermon and there's still enough time to hit the party. So it's your merits have, I don't know, demerits perhaps, has made made this sermon to be at a time which is sort of convenient for everyone. So yeah, so Happy New Year, and this year, at the start of every year, we all make New Year's resolutions, and I hope in your list of resolutions, number 1 is your salvation, because that is what we should live for. I mean, otherwise, there's no point in living, in a way, to be fair. So I hope your salvation is at the number 1 in your list, and then followed by, I don't know, promotions and all the rest of it. So let us all, at the start of the year, let us all make a firm resolve, that a determination that we will understand the truth, and let's do a lot of merits, and all the merits that we do this year and all the previous stuff we've done. Let's hope this is our year, and this year we will be able to make further steps, further strides along this journey. I mean, all of us have made certain steps, made progress, sorry, in the path, because otherwise, I mean, you would, like, if you were to tell someone that, if someone were to ask you what you're doing on a 31st night, and if you were to say, oh, I'm listening to some Dhamma online, not even in person, online, they would think you're nuts. But they'll be like, what have you been smoking? What are you doing listening to a Dhamma sermon online on 31st night? You should be hitting the clubs with us, or something. So that's what, so that in itself shows your devotion, your commitment, your dedication to the sasana, and to the path. And it shows that, I've said this before, that this kind of mindset is a very, very advanced kind of mindset, because the mindset of wasting your time going to parties and stuff like that, that is a very primitive kind of mindset. I mean, so you are way beyond that. So keep that in mind. So you guys are the kind of people who are like people who tend to be successful in life, because all of you are successful in your own right. And the reason why you've got to those positions, you reach those levels, the reason why you reached the pinnacle of your careers is because you are willing to, like, go the extra mile. You are willing to, you're better at managing your time. You're better at directing your energy and efforts into more useful things. Whereas those people, they spend their money, they spend their time, and by the end of it, all they have is a headache. So they wake up next morning with a headache, with a hangover, and that's it. So that's all they got from those activities. Whereas you got to learn about the truth, about the universe, because he talked about anicca, dukkha, and anatta. I mean, that is all we have to talk about anyway. So it's because we don't know them. That's why we are in this predicament. That's why we are in this trap. So they wasted their time, their money, they wasted their precious human life. They didn't waste their time, they wasted their life, which is what we're going to talk about today. Whereas you guys made a much better use of your life. So that is a difference. So that's why I think all of you deserve, this is your heritage. All of you deserve to attain Nibbana, deserve to know the truth and understand and comprehend the truth. So don't let this opportunity go by. Keep coming, keep trying. Even if it's not with us, with whoever, it doesn't matter. Stick with the teacher and keep going, and let's try to understand the truth. Okay. So, and as I was saying, so this year, much like other years, so maybe if in previous years, if Nibbana was number one, let's try to, or at least let's try to bring that up in your list of priorities, in your resolutions, that this year is the year that I'm going to get it done. So it doesn't matter if you're a lay, it doesn't matter if you're a monk or a nun. What matters is this is a change of the mindset. What we're doing is we're cleansing the mindset. So it doesn't matter what you're wearing, your attire doesn't matter. What matters is your mindset. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to change the mindset. So don't let anything be an obstacle in that journey. So wherever you are, doesn't matter. Let's try to understand the truth and give yourselves the best chance to understand it. So let's start the year, on the right note. And I think you did start it on the right note, because you had a sermon on that day, 31st night. So I think where he was during midnight, he was doing a sermon for you. So he definitely started the year right by doing a sermon to you, and you also started the year right because technically it was the day before, but New Year's Eve, you were in a you participated in a sermon, and maybe because you had the sermon, maybe you couldn't have attended those parties, and it's a good thing because when you were there, you'd have done a lot of demerits. So the merits you attained, you achieved, you accumulated by listening to the talk. Because of that, the opportunity to do a lot of demerits went away from you. So because there might have been certain occasions. So again, I've got nothing against with you going to parties. I mean, when you are leading a lay life, you have to turn up to some of these events. So I'm not saying don't go to them. Go to the ones go to the essential ones. So there's nothing wrong with going there. I mean, if you have to go to a party, go there and think about the Dhamma, contemplate the Dhamma, which is, as long as you're doing that, it doesn't matter whether you're at a party or whether you're at a monastery, as long as you're contemplating the Dhamma, then that's what needs to happen. So situation doesn't really matter as long as you're getting the job done. But the environment helps. That's why we say to avoid such environments. But if you have to do it, fair enough, go. But think about the Dhamma. So last week, 𝗕𝗏 Thero, he kind of started talking about this idea of time. So, and he explained anicca dukkha anatta to you. So what I will do is we will go from there. So we will talk a bit about time, and we'll go into what Guru Thero was talking these days, the idea that everything, or see everything as incidences. But to understand that, we have to kind of refresh our minds about what anicca dukkha anatta is. So to do that, I'll do a simple example. I think all of you are familiar with this example of the flame. So bear with me a second until I this going. Yeah, right. So can all of you see a flame? Yeah, cool. So now to make sure I don't burn anything. So the flame. So the thing is this: we're not trying to learn, or our goal is not to. Like, we're not trying to learn anicca dukkha anatta here. We're not trying to we're not trying to learn about or we don't have to learn about, or we shouldn't learn about Four Noble Truths and all of these stuff. As in, what I'm trying to say is, we're not doing this as a learning exercise. We're not doing this to accumulate knowledge. The reason why we need to know anicca dukkha anatta, or the reason why we are talking about this, is because we are in this trap. We think this reality, or we think reality is the reality. Or in other words, because we think this is real, everything is real, because of that, we tend to go through mental struggles, or we tend to get stressed, angry, depressed, and then we tend to go through these negative emotions. And then so the solution to that is to understand the universe. Because 𝗕𝗏 Thero last week said the same thing. We're not trying to learn about anicca dukkha anatta. What we're trying to do is, you don't have to know everything about anicca. You don't have to know everything about dukkha or anatta. You don't have to know all three of them. If you know one of them, because what we're trying to do is to see the universe. We're trying to figure out how the universe works, how everything works. So, because we tend to get into this mindset, maybe not so much you because you've been with us for a long time, but we can get into this mindset of trying to accumulate knowledge, because that is the thing nowadays. Like, everyone wants to be knowledgeable. Everyone's going after knowledge, and as a result, when it comes to Dhamma as well, we're trying to accumulate lots of Dhamma knowledge. But having the knowledge is is useless if you don't put it to use. And there's no point knowing, like, there's no point in having useless knowledge. It's like when you fill your computer up with loads of files, lots of data, unnecessary data, it clogs everything up. It slows it down. So what we need to do is we need to understand what we need to understand, get the knowledge that we need, and we need to practice that. So that is why we don't really delve into, that's why we don't really talk about Abhidhamma and all these kind of other concepts, because they're not necessary for us. And especially as a layperson, I mean, you certainly don't need all of that. I mean, even as monks, I mean, because we have to preach, we have to know a bit about these things. But if I didn't have to preach, I wouldn't bother learning about all these other concepts. Because for me, because for everybody, knowing about anicca, dukkha, anatta is enough. So what we're trying to do is, we're not just trying to learn anicca, dukkha, anatta for the sake of it. We're trying to learn it because we have a problem, because we have an issue. I mean, a lot of people don't know they have a problem. That is their problem. A lot of people, they have a problem, they have a big problem, but they don't know they have a problem. But that is most people's problem. But we know the problem somewhat, because the problem being, we don't see the world correctly. And as a result, we have all the aforementioned things, the negative emotions. So what we're trying to do is, we're trying to look at the world in the correct way. So what we're trying to do is, we're trying to understand the reality using a simple example. So we have the flame. So quickly, to kind of recap what we talked about, what 𝗬𝗏 talked about in the last session, is basically the Lord Buddha. He looked at the universe and he described the universe using 3 characteristics. Or he looked at the universe and he realized, okay, I have to tell these to these people. That is why I became the Buddha after all. How do I tell this to them? So he thought, okay, maybe these 3 methods, these 3 concepts, or these 3 perspectives will make sense to people. They'll be able to understand it easier if I were to pitch it this way. So basically, anicca, dukkha, and anatta, these are talking about the same thing, but from 3 different perspectives. It's like you can talk about, like you're seeing me right now, so you can talk about my features from a front-on angle, from a side, from the back, but you're talking about me. So that is what he did. So he saw the truth and he explained the truth in 3 different ways. So again, you don't need to know all 3 of them. As long as you know one. If you know all 3, great. But if you know one, that's good enough. Because again, we're not trying to memorize or learn the definitions. We're trying to, because at the end of the day, what we have to realize is that though we see a flame, the reality or the conclusion that we need to come to is that what is really there are, so if I were to draw the flame, I don't know if you can see this. Can you see the flame? Yeah. Okay. So this flame, okay, it's bigger than the candle. Don't worry about that. Right? The flame, we see this as one thing, but what's really there are 3 things. So if I were to kind of split this into 3, so there's oxygen, heat, and fuel. So basically, this is a reaction between This is the reaction between heat, fuel, and oxygen. But it seemed like it looks like one thing. So let me draw it a bit bigger. So what you see as a flame is really this oxygen, heat, and fuel. So it's a reaction really between it's a reaction between these three. Okay? So it's a reaction between heat, fuel, and oxygen. But the reaction seems like one thing. And this reaction, so the reason why I use the term reaction is because it's continuously happening. It's it's not finished. As in, these three things come together, and there's a fixed, or there's a product. It's cause and effect, right? Not cause and product. So causes come together, and the flame is really the causes coming together. That's it. You can't say causes come together and then flame. You can't say flame before the causes come together. No, causes coming together is the flame. Causes coming together, that's it. So what you are seeing here, what we see as a flame is just the causes coming together. Yeah. So that is the first thing we have to understand. So what's happening is causes coming together all the time. And it's not the same causes all the time either. Same causes can't come together twice, because for a flame to happen, oxygen, heat, and fuel gets consumed. That's why after a little while, wax will run out and no more flame. So causes aren't same causes aren't coming together. We can say similar causes are coming together. Why? Because heat is not the same heat that was there before. Oxygen was not the same oxygen molecules that were there before. And wax is not the same wax molecule that was there before. We call it wax because, again, like the reason why we say flame, we feel like we are seeing the same flame all the time. The reason why we label that is because it looks similar, or there's a similar characteristic. So since there's a similar characteristic, we label it the flame. Because when causes come together, there's a characteristic. And when similar causes come, as long as similar causes are coming together, there will be a similar characteristic. As long as the characteristic is the same, we can call it something. So that's why when you see this, you will say flame. When you see another flame, you'll call it the flame, because characteristics are similar, yeah, or characteristics are the same, but causes are not the same. Okay, so the reality behind this is that we see it as one. I can't say we see it as one. We see something. We see one thing, but actually it's three things. It's a combination, and they are continuously coming together. The reaction has to happen. So reaction between these three looks like something. Okay, but the reality is there is no flame. There's no one thing. What's actually there are the three things. That's why the Buddha said, Yada niccang, tan dukkang, tadanatta. So Yada niccang means Yada niccang tan dukkang means if something is anicca, if something is of, oh, if anicca nature is present, so heat, fuel, and oxygen, that's anicca, causes basically. As long as causes are there, and as long as there's a necessity, the causes will come together. Yeah, so that is dukkha. So yada nicchan tan dukkham. Tan dukkham tadanatta. If it's dukkha, meaning that if things come together because of a necessity, things can only come together. They can't make something else. They can't create, they can't produce something else. Like these three things can't produce a flame, because flame is the fourth thing, which, I mean, they can't create something none of them have. Do you know what I mean? They can't create a fourth thing, because if you were to take the causes away, if you were to take oxygen away, effect will be effect will be different. Then there's no flame. If you take heat away, same thing. If you take the wax away or the fuel away, same thing. So if they come together and if they were to make something else, if that's the truth, then when you take them away, whatever they made, so in this case, if they were to create a fourth thing, a fourth element called the flame, then that flame should be left behind once you get rid of all the causes. But the reality is not that. The causes have to be there, and they have to continue, keep matching, keep converging, keep reacting in order to create the effect of the flame, of a flame. So flame is an effect. So it's being made, but it's not done. Being made, or it's always in progress. Nothing gets made. So tandukkam tadanatta. So that's what we need to come to. Then it's anatta, meaning then there is no fixed flame. There are some causes, these causes are reacting, but they're simply reacting, that's all. They're not producing something. It's simply a reaction. That reaction to the observer, when there's an observer, it looks like it's become something else. That's why, they talk about um, the duality of a wave particle, a wave, sorry. Like they say, I think they call wave particle duality. I think they say, scientists say, what is really there is a wave, energy in the form of a wave. But as long as there's an observer, for an observer, it looks like a dot. It looks like a particle. It doesn't look like a wave. It doesn't look like something. It doesn't look like a continuation. It looks like one thing. It looks like a particle. The reason why that is because as long as an observer is involved, observer means a mind. Mind will bring things together. That's the characteristic of the mind. Mind likes to collect things. My mind collects things. That's why we feel like we spent an entire lifetime. Like let's say if you're 30 now, you feel like you lived for 30 years. I was young, and then I went to school, and then I went to high school, and then I moved to the UK, then I did a job, etc., etc. Now I'm here. So like all of that, like the moment you think about the past, all of that comes together, and the mind automatically like brings them together. That is the nature of the mind. So anyway, as long as there's an observer there, mind comes into the equation, and the mind perceives this as an entity or entity-like thing. Mind doesn't perceive it as an entity. It's because of ignorance. The mind thinks it's an entity, but mind perceives it as like an mind perceives it as an entity-like state, entity-like, or it perceives it like an object. So anyway, that's besides the point. So the point is that using the flame, we can understand how everything works. The nature, in nature, nothing gets made, nothing got made. It looks like something got made, but looks like that's it. So when it comes to the flame, there is no fixed flame. It's simply this combination that looks like a fixed flame. Okay, so a flame doesn't exist anywhere. That's the point. There is no flame. It's not in a mind. It's not in a. It's not on the board. It's not on the candle. It's not. There's no flame anywhere. Okay? Now, now, one of the reasons we feel an existence is because of time. So it's because of sense of self. It's because like whenever something happens, we either feel happy or upset is because we think it's happened to us. We feel like someone exists and oh, I exist. This is happening to me. Or like if you're thinking about work tomorrow, or I have to go to work tomorrow, I have this meeting, I have that meeting, I have to deal with this incident. Like, and then the mind can either become stressed or either become excited. So whichever emotion you have, if you have an emotion, that means you feel like there is someone and it's happening to someone. Or I have to go to work tomorrow and I'm excited. I have to go to work, I can't be bothered. So I'm stressing out. Like Sunday night or Sunday evening is a perfect example. Now you're thinking about Monday and everything you have to do on Monday and rest of the week comes into your mind, and all of a sudden you you're searching for antidepressant drugs, right? Because you feel depressed. So that is because if you, the reason why the mind feels depressed is because the mind feels like there is someone here and that person has to go through these things, has to face all these challenges and obstacles. So, so because we feel a sense of time, we feel a sense of self. Or other way around, because we feel a sense of self, we feel time. But the reason for this is ignorance. The idea that there's a fixedness, there are fixed things in the world. There's a world out there, and the world is obviously fixed. And in this world, there are objects, there are people. These are yeah, there are people exist, objects exist in this world. So the world is a fixed thing, right? So it's this fixedness that we perceive. Is this, we feel like this. We feel like things are there. Like we feel like stuff we see, everything we see are it's like it's their own thing. The flame, it's its own thing. The laptop, it's its own thing. The water bottle or the bottle of water is its own thing. That feeling comes about because of the wrong idea, or because of the idea that you've been told that's how the world is. So, so what we're trying to do is we're trying to prove to ourselves that this is not true. We're trying to, it's a myth, and we're trying to, you know, we are myth busters. That's what we need to do. We need to bust these myths. So, so one approach that we can take to get rid of this idea is we can take anything. So we can take, let's say, walking. Okay, that's something we do every day. Perhaps not enough, but all of us walk. So let's say you're going down the stairs, going up the stairs, walking down the street. What are the causes needed? What are the causes? What causes need to come together for walking to happen? Okay, so let's take a few of these activities that we do, and let's try to understand let's try to understand something. So for walking to happen, what causes needs to come together? So there has to be a purpose to walk. And there needs to be, you need to know the directions and you need to have energy, right? So purpose, knowing the directions, energy, this is what's needed. And I mean, legs, obviously. Or yeah, you can work on your arm, I don't know, but let's say legs, right? So you need these three causes, these 4 causes for walking to happen. Purpose, knowing the directions, legs, and energy to drive the legs. So for walking to happen, these are the causes that are needed. Okay, and obviously there needs to be a road, okay, or somewhere to walk on. Okay, so these 5 causes. And let's take something else. For this pen to drop, what are the causes that are needed? Like the drop happened, okay? What were the causes that are needed for that to happen? So they had a pen, I had to let that go, I had to loosen my grip, and gravity. Pen, loosening the grip, gravity. Those are the 3 causes for that to happen. To raise your hand, what's needed? Hand, purpose, and energy. Okay, so bear with me on this. So we took 3 activities and we listed the causes that are needed. So we took walking first. So walking to happen, purpose, legs, energy, road, knowing the directions. For the pen to fall, pen, losing the grip, gravity. To raise the hand, 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 purpose, energy. So let's take this. Let's go back to the second incident or the activity. Okay, pen falling. So the causes for the pen to fall, causes needed for the pen to fall, for the pen, loosening the grip, and gravity. Let me phrase that question differently. If I were to ask you, instead of what causes are needed for the pen to fall, if I were to ask you, when does this pen fall? So now the time is, here it's 11:44, I'm guessing over it's 7:44, 7:45 now. So at what time does this pen fall? So when I ask you this question, it's like, I mean, the question that probably come to your mind is that it falls whenever you let it go. Whenever you let it go, it will fall. So can we say when that is? 7:45 or 7:46? Never. You see, like, when I ask you this question, there's something wrong. It feels weird, right? It feels wrong, isn't it? Like, not wrong, but it feels weird. It feels like, what are you talking about? Like, it's like, it's like very difficult to kind of compute an answer. Like, when someone asked me this question, like a few months ago, I was thinking, I was kind of perplexed. I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean, when does it fall? Like, how do I answer that question? It's because the thing is this pen falls. So the causes needed for the pen to fall, there has to be a pen, hand, and gravity. So when I ask the question, when does the pen fall? Can we really answer that question? As in, Jeremy, can we really answer that question? Because we are thinking of an answer in terms of time. Because naturally, instinctively, we're trying to come up with some kind of time as an answer. Like, okay, it's gonna happen at this time. It's gonna happen at that time. But actually, we can't say at what time. What we can say is the pen will fall when causes come together. When causes that are needed for that incident to happen, when those causes come together, it will fall. So in other words, time isn't one of the causes, isn't it? We took walking, we took pen drop, we took raising the hand. You can think of every activity that you do throughout your lives, you've done, or you typically do. For all of these activities to happen, for the activity to happen, time wasn't a cause, was it? Like we could say, okay, we were going to do this at that time, okay, but for the activity to happen, time wasn't an issue or wasn't a cause, was it? So, but we're trying to, so like, think about this. For anything to happen, time isn't a cause. Time isn't needed because time is something that we've come up with. Because people, they were looking at the movement of the sun and the moon, and then they came up with something. So time is basically it's a conceptual thing. It's not a universal phenomenon. It's not a natural law. It's something that we've come up with. It's a human-made thing. In other words, time is purely a perception. That's it. There's no such thing as time. So now for the pen to fall, time isn't one of the causes. So meaning that what we call, so now if you were to look at our life, okay, you being born, was time a cause for that to happen? No. For you to grow up or for you to go to school, time wasn't a cause. For you to come to the UK, to migrate to the UK, time wasn't a cause. For you to get a job, time wasn't a cause. For you to sit down, time wasn't a cause. So meaning that if time isn't a cause for any of these things to happen, then can we link these? Can we link it? No, because the reason why we, like, your autobiography, like if you were to tell your own story, your life story, your autobiography, then we can only, I mean, conventionally we can say it, but we feel like we lived the life because of time, because we think time is real, and for everything that happened in our life, we feel like time was a cause. Time had some sort of involvement because we feel that. That's why we think I lived from the day I was born till now. So basically, if time is one of the causes, then is this one entire story or are these individual or independent incidences? Because think about it, since time is not any of the causes, since time isn't a cause, we can simply remove time from the equation. Once we remove time from the equation, this continuation, this glue that binds all of these things together, then it falls. So like imagine there's a book and then you extract all the glue, and then you extract all the glue, and then what happens to all the pages? Pages and the covers, they just simply fall apart. So that's what we have to prove to the mind that this idea of time is just an illusion, because what's really happening are incidences. Incidents happen. Everything is an incident. And what we call life is or are multiple incidents. And they are completely independent. So if you were to go back to the flame, okay, when I showed you the flame, probably about maybe half an hour or so ago, the flame you are seeing now, is this the same flame? No, these aren't the same flame. And for the previous flame to happen, was time a cause? No. All we needed were heat, fuel, and oxygen. So for the previous flame to happen, time was one of the causes. And for this flame to happen, is time one of the causes? No. So for this flame to happen, the causes are heat, fuel, and oxygen. Time is, again, is not one of the causes. Okay. If that's the case, for the previous flame to happen, time wasn't a cause. And for this flame to happen, time wasn't a cause. So are these two, so then can we say we were seeing the same flame? No, right? But we feel like, I mean, it looks the same. Fair enough. Looks the same, but it's not the same. These are two different flames. When, in other words, it's flaming. It's a new flame all the time. Again, when I say flame, I'm naming the reaction, like the effect. Okay, so obviously you know that, right? So we label the effect, or we label the characteristic as a flame. So the effect is always, can we say it's a new effect? We can't say new effect either. Why? Because that implies there was an old effect, isn't it? So we can't say it's a new flame either, isn't it? It's a new, it's an effect. We can't say new or old. So there's no flame within a flame, and every time, we can't even say every time, let's just say every time, it's a flame effect. Effect is what's happening. We can't say new effect, old effect, current effect, past effect, future effect. We can't use any of these terms. Effect. That's all there is. I mean, there's energy, and these energies reactions are happening within energy, and as a result, okay, effect after effect after effect. But we can't even say that. It's just all we know is the is, again, how to use the word current. All we know about is the current effect. Oh, that's all there is. You know, scientists, they talk about, they say universe is expanding, and we need to sort of improve our technology and kind of like reach the, get to the new frontier of space travel. And then, like, we were talking about getting to the new frontier, like going the next step, or getting to the edge of things, to get into the final result, or trying to find out what is like the go to the end of the, if it's a subject, find out everything about it, go to the right at the end. So like people are talking about these kind of things, like the frontier of space, yeah, frontier of, or expanding universe, right? But like, I can take you to the edge of the universe, right? Shall we? Okay, let's go to the edge of the universe. Strap yourselves in, because it could be a bumpy ride. Okay, so let's go to the edge of the universe. Some of you might know this already. If you do, great. Could be pressure. You don't know. Hmm. That's also great. Okay, so hope I can fit everything in. Okay, so so this is, let's say, the real world. This is the four great elements, or the world of energy. Okay, so this is the world of energy. Now, this plus other forms of energy, this causes, say, okay, this, so this plus 𝑉𝑖, okay, this causes a mind to happen, isn't it? Okay, I is also energy, but it's, I hope it's big enough for all of you to see. Okay, so this is, okay, that's meant to be an I, okay, and then this gives rise to a mind, okay, and we know mind is basically, again, it's not one thing, it's an effect. It's the effect of these two, or it's, you know, Rupa Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, and Vinyana. Okay, so the mind is basically, these are the four stages of the mind. So basically, so this is where colors happen. So flame happens at the Rupa stage, and here acknowledgement happens, and then at the Sanya level, it gets defined, right? And then here, every Sankara level, everything is brought together, and then here, final perception. This is, so for this stage, Vijnana or perception, this is the final stage. So now this, the Rupa stage, the initial stage of the mind, where these are all the senses basically: color, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. This is where all of that happens. So color is just like the flame. Color is also an effect, because color didn't come from, because what's really here is energy, isn't it? What's really here are electrons, neutrons, protons. So which has no color, right? Because if electrons, neutrons, protons had color, then then everything should be the same color, right? For example, then only one color can exist in the world: electrons, neutrons, protons. Combination is atoms. So if atoms had color, then, because all atoms are the same, all atoms are equal. So if one atom has a certain color, then all the atoms will have the same color, isn't it? So if grass is really green, right? When the cow eats grass, grass becomes the cow, isn't it? Right? Because that grass gets converted into flesh and stuff like that, right? So if green is really in the grass, then since the day the cow was born, all the cow was doing was grazing on grass, right? Drank a bit of milk initially from the mother, but from for the most of his life, it's been eating grass. So if grass is really green, then all the cow eats is grass, then the cow should also be green, isn't it? Cows shouldn't be brown. Cows should be green if grass is actually green, isn't it? And then in your part of the world and in these parts of the world, what do people mostly eat? People love good steak, don't they? Yeah. A cheeky steak for once in a while. Yeah. So that's cow, right? That's beef. People eat lots of beef and then steak and stuff like which are all comes from a cow. So the beef becomes flesh and bones and muscles and blood. So shouldn't we also become green then? Grass is green, grass becomes the cow, and right, we eat the cow, so technically we are cow. That's why we do dumb things anyway, because right, uh, we drink cow's milk and eat cows, right? So anyway, so we should also be green as well, but it doesn't work like that, right? So that proves that color isn't in atoms, in energy, or is what we perceive as objects. They don't have color. So right, so the characteristic of a manifestation is that it's not any of the causes. As in the final, what the effect isn't one of the causes, as in it doesn't bear any qualities of the causes. Like the flame isn't heat, isn't fuel, isn't oxygen. The flame is neither one of those three, isn't it? Because flameness, I don't know if you can call it that, the flameness didn't come from either oxygen or heat or fuel, isn't it? And looking at the flame, imagine if you were to show this flame to a kid, someone who doesn't know about science, let's say, if you were to show this to a kid and ask, what do you think are the causes of this, of the flame? Would he or she be able to to answer that question? If you were to ask the kid, what are the causes of the flame? He would or she wouldn't know. As in, because by looking at this, we can't work out what the causes are. We can work it out if we know what the, like if we know science, we can. But for someone who doesn't know science, they won't be able to work it out. Why? Because by looking at the manifestation, by looking at the effect, you can't talk about the causes. Like you can't work out what the causes are like, or what the causes are. So because manifestation means, because it's the illusion, isn't it? Because it's neither one of the causes, and it, the characteristic is there. I'm not saying there's no characteristic, but the story paints, the story depicts of flame, of a fixed thing, that story is fake, isn't it? So that's what I'm trying to say. So we see color. So here we see color, but it's not like color exists out here. It's not like color exists in heat, fuel, and oxygen, and we see it. No, heat doesn't have color, fuel doesn't have color, oxygen doesn't have color, but that combination for a mind, or that combination is perceived like color. So this only looks white, sorry, looks yellow and a tinge of blue. Let's say you can't see the blue, but it's yellow, but it's not actually yellow, because yellow didn't, neither one of the causes are yellow. So yellow is only perceived in a mind, or not in a mind, yellow is a mind. So yes, we can say only a mind can perceive color. So color can only happen in a mind, right? So, that particular reaction is color. Okay, meaning that point is this. Point is that there is no color here. That's what we have to understand. Okay, so there is no color here. There is no color here. So meaning that the effect or the manifestation, the story that this tells is a fake story, isn't it? So color is an illusion. Okay, right. Now, so the flame that we see, it's an illusion. It's not what's really there, right? Okay, so it's the same with color. It's the same with all the other senses: sound, smell, taste, touch. Okay, and then the next stage, which is Vedana, which is the acknowledgement. Okay, acknowledgement of what? Because for Vedana to happen, it's also, because Vedana is also an effect. Because you could say, let me rub this off for a second. Because for Rupa to happen, or for, let's say, color, for color to happen, the causes were, we have, say, let's stick to what we, let's go by the experiment. Okay, I'm not going to go by the theory that we know. So for color to happen, there was energy plus the eye plus the brain. Yeah, let's say these things, right? So these three combination. So for Rupa or for color to happen, these were the causes. Energy, eye, can say nerves, and brain. So these are the 3-4 causes that were needed for color to happen. You need Vipaka as well, but let's put that to a side. And then for, okay, you need Vipaka as well, so that's Vipaka. So for the next stage to happen, again, there are causes. That is again an effect, isn't it? So for Vedana to happen, right, this had to be there, right? This plus some other causes, isn't it? Like, we know, here's the thing though, right? So this is wrong, actually. So for Vedana to happen, which is the next stage of the mind, okay, so color happened and then came this. For this to happen, was this, because color is a manifestation, right? Right? And then Vedana is also a manifestation, or acknowledgement of color is also a manifestation. Is it an acknowledgement of, so I phrased it like acknowledgement of color. Acknowledgement of which color? This color? Because this is a manifestation. Acknowledgement, it's also a manifestation. So are two manifestations the same? No. Can we compare manifestations? No. So acknowledgement didn't happen. So when color happened, okay, or when that manifestation happened, that reaction created the environment for the next reaction to happen, or for Vedana to happen. But this, so color and the acknowledgement are not linked. These are two independent things. That's why for color to happen, time wasn't one of the causes. For Vedana to happen, time isn't any of the causes. Because I don't know the exact, because the causes for Vedana to happen are ignorance, attachment, sparsha or touch, and karma, I think. But that is theory, which is kind of like, is not helpful here, but for now I'll write that. So it's previous ignorance, attachment, karma, sparsha or touch, and which is nibbati lakkhana, which is the characteristic of coming together. I hope that's right. So anyway, the point is this is also a manifestation. So all of these things, the mind. So Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana, these are all manifestations. And each one of these are all independent of each other. These are not linked. So don't worry about that too much. But what we have to understand is that when perception happens here. We don't really know about any of these things. Perceptions happen here. Okay. Oh, perception is what we feel. Experience that we experience, that happens right at the end. So meaning that this is also a manifestation, because because these are the causes, and for this to happen. Okay, so let's simplify a little bit. Let's not complicate too much. These are the causes for this effect to happen. But this means, because it doesn't mean, like, again, if you go back to the flame is the illusion. There is no actual flame here, isn't it? The story the manifestation tells, the story that the effect tells, it's a fake story, isn't it? Color isn't, we see color, but we see it not because it's there. And it doesn't become a fixed thing. That's why because if color were to really exist, then when the flame experience happens, and then when laptop experience happens, the flame experience should still stay when the laptop experience happens, if it becomes fixed, but it doesn't. Now, when the causes change, it's a different experience, which means that it's not fixed, which means it wasn't really there. Yeah. So that means same thing at the last level, the vijnana level, whatever story that it tells. So what you experience right now, all of this it's a manifestation, meaning that it's not true. And by looking at this, we can't talk about the causes either. We can't, by looking at this, we can't say, okay, what's really happening? We can't really say, to be fair. Buddha found out because he had, that's again, I think a Buddha is it's a natural phenomenon, natural law kind of thing. So a Buddha can work it out, but mere mortals, us, we can't, right? So by looking at a manifestation, we can't talk about the causes. We have no idea what the causes are like. So by looking at this experience, we know it's a manifestation. Why? Because we took examples and we proved it to ourselves. So when we see color, when we hear sound, again, it's not because it exists out there and we see it. These are simply all effects. And so vijnana, that is the ultimate effect. So seeing color, that is basically, even though we say color happens here, right? But from what we can feel, okay, because we don't know about, because again, this is what we know for theory, but let's take this experience. Let's take this experience. This experience is this level, is vijnana, and this color we experience, it's an effect. It must be an effect. So if it's an effect, it means it's not the reality. It's not what's actually there. It's something completely different, isn't it? So Now let me take you to the edge of the universe. The edge of your universe, is this. It's the perception. That is the edge of the universe. I don't know what scientists are on about, but even for them, this is the edge of the observable universe. See, you knowing this, you know way more than any scientist out there. Scientists don't know this because they think the universe exists and we need to explore it, etc. Well, how do you know? I mean, thing is, yes, Hubble telescopes and all these, there's a new one as well. They capture images, okay? They capture energy, but that energy is interpreted by mind. So the mind with ignorance will misinterpret, because the mind anyway, it misinterprets it anyway, right? Because the bundle of energy is depicted as a flame. If a bunch of energy is depicted as a flame, then what the telescopes capture, surely that is also misinterpreted by the brain or the mind, sorry, isn't it? So that's the thing. The mind, because of this, because mind itself is an effect, it cannot possibly work out what the truth is. It will always misinterpret it. It will always distort it. That's the thing. It distorts the reality. So that's why even Buddha, even someone who's enlightened, that's why they know this is not the reality. This is a virtual reality. So anything that happens to us, right? The reason why we feel under pressure is because we think this is actually happening to us. So when someone has a go at you, what you have to think about is apply it to the base level. Okay? When someone has a go at you and when you get angry, what we need to look at is that that's a manifestation, that's an effect. That entire story is an effect. That means it never really happened like that. That never really happened because there is no flame here, isn't it? There's heat, fuel, and oxygen. But we can't talk about heat, fuel, and oxygen by looking at this. We can say it because we know science. So when someone has a go at you, fluctuations of energy are happening. Energy is fluctuating. Energy is flowing about, moving about, and that looks like someone having a go at you. But that's not true. That never happened. So that's what you need to go down to that level. I think you can skip all those levels, all the other levels. I mean, you can say, I mean, because I think this is probably very effective because this is what we need to kind of, because then we don't have to worry about like any minor issues that are within that, because when you see that entire thing as a manifestation, then that's it. Then you don't have to worry about, oh, okay, it's because I have a preference and stuff like that. I know I used to give that type of answers before, but now thinking about it, because every day because we are blessed to have no noble association all the time, and when we speak to our teachers, day by day our knowledge improves, our understanding increases, and now whenever there's a problem, what you have to think about is that prove to the mind that it's a manifestation. That's why take a small example, or take a simple example rather, simple example like this, and prove to the mind that it's an effect. And then, as in, that's why we use anicca, dukkha, and anatta. using 𝗓𝗕𝗃𝗃, these are simply techniques to work out the truth. When we use these techniques, it should prove to us that flame, there's no such thing as a flame, as a fixed flame. There's no flame. We can give a label to the collection of the causes, to the reaction, that's fine, but a separate entity called a flame doesn't exist. That is what we have to understand. And with that knowledge, with that understanding, or using with that lens, now look at the world. Now look at that scenario. Right? Someone having over at me. Is this real? I mean, that person is basically some color. Color is a manifestation. So whatever's there, we don't know. But if color is being perceived, it can't be what's there. So there's no person having a go at me. And again, what you perceive as your body, again, that's a manifestation. So there is no person there, and them having a go at you, that argument or that scolding or that criticism is basically sound. I mean, sound didn't come from that person. There's no person there, and there is no such thing as sound either. There were simply vibrations. Sound was the interpretation of that in the mind. Sound was the effect, and that effect was described as an argument, someone criticizing, right? That got translated into criticism or words, and those words were translated into criticism. So, and then your body, what you see as yourself, that is also an effect. So if all of these things are effects, then that story of someone having a go at you, that never happened. Looks that way, fair enough. We have to understand it looks that way, but it didn't actually happen. So what is happening is basically every single time there's a perception. It's a perception after perception after perception. But again, I mean, that's the thing. See, I can't say perception after perception after perception. Perception. That's it. Yes, constantly perceptions are happening, but these perceptions, they are not linked to each other. They are completely independent. Yes, for the perception to happen, time wasn't one of the causes. Isn't it? For either one of these stages, time wasn't a cause. That's why we took like simple examples. So time isn't a cause. So these are independent incidents. Independent incidents. They're not linked because there's nothing to link them. Time was the only thing that could possibly link them. But there's no such thing as time. So that's why they are independent. Because people could say, what about memories? Memories are there though. Okay, memories are simply like data. When a perception happens, data gets sent. Don't ask me to where. Data is sent or uploaded, right? And when another perception happens, when another perception happens, that data is drawn, and so that data comes in, because if the environment is such, the data that is relevant to that environment comes in, and again, data and the perception, or at this stage, or one of these, the sanya stage, data comes in, but that data, just think about it. When you think about a past event, that happens now, isn't it? So that data comes in now. So it's not like you actually traveled to the past and you got the data from there, or you didn't travel to the past and you're reliving that past moment. No, because thinking about the past, memories are coming they're coming now. So when an incident happens now, data gets sent, and the next moment, let's say an incident happens, and that data might get drawn, but the data coming together happens now. Do you know what I mean? So everything's happening when the causes come together. That's it. Because memories are, it's a deception. Because memories don't belong to anyone. That's why, like, let's say you and some of your mates were in the same cricket team, or let's say all of you, all of you came to one of our programs, and when you guys get together, you might recall that experience, and you might say, "Oh, I made dal for arms," and someone might say, "Oh no, you didn't make it. I made it." Like, you probably have such an experience. Like, you think you did something, but actually turns out to be someone else did it. So what's happened there? Like, the memories are switched now, kind of. So if that were to happen, like if that person wasn't there to say that you didn't do it, you would go on believing that you've done it, that you made dal. So that means, like, you know what I mean? So like, there's no guarantee. It's very difficult. You can't prove that it happened to you, because ultimately, this idea of you are like the flame. You don't like, there's a sense of self, yes, but there is no self. I can't say there's no sense of self. Yes, there is a sense of self, but there's no self. There is no you. So that's the thing. So this is the edge of the universe. So what we have to think about is that try to see everything as an incident. It's an incident after incident after incident. That's it. It's not happening to anyone, because seeing happens. Is it happening to anyone? No. There's no. It's just a process. It's light hits an aggregation of energy, and then that comes to the eye, and then signal gets sent to the brain, etc., etc., and then seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touch, all of these things. These are simply processes, and time isn't a cause. So these are just incidents. These are independent incidents, not happening to anyone. So there's no doer behind the senses, the sensory processes. This is what we have to prove to ourselves. So maybe for the next week, what you can do is, when you're walking, like, see, is this an incident, or or am I doing the walking? Right? Like, see if next time you're walking down the street, next time you're on your phone, I think this happens when some causes come together. It doesn't happen at a particular time. Like, conventionally, I mean, we say, okay, I'm going to wake up at 8 in the morning. I mean, the clock doesn't have actual time in it. That is a measurement that is something that we came up, and we say, okay, because again, these two are two separate incidences. Like, we say, okay, when it says 8, I'm gonna wake up. So it's not like at 8 o'clock I'm gonna wake, because a clock is basically, doesn't tell time. It's basically just, I mean, it's a made up thing. So when it says 8, I'm gonna wake up. So these are two separate incidents. So that's the thing. So see, like, prove to yourself that everything is an incident. Time isn't a cause. Time isn't a factor. It's not relevant to the process. So it's just incident after incident after incident. Waking up. Do you wake up or you get woken up? You get woken up, isn't it? And then you go and brush your teeth. That happens because that's been practiced. You practiced it for a long time, so it just happens. It doesn't happen that because let's say you normally brush your teeth at 8, so you woke up at 7, and you're not going to wait till 8 to go and brush your teeth. You probably go and brush it straight away. Do you know what I mean? So today, what I want you to understand is that time isn't, see if time is a cause for any of your actions. You'll probably realize that it isn't. It's just, these are completely independent incidents. No link, no relevance. They're not linked to each other at all. So now, when you prove this to yourself, now that continuation, that fixedness that we feel, that will go out of the window. So again, this is one technique. This is one way to understand the truth. So again, as we know, Lord Buddha has he preached 84,000 discourses, 84,000 sermons. So each of these sermons talked about the same thing, but in a different. He introduced a different method. It's like we're trying to reach the same destination. So the destination is the same, but you can take different roads. So you can look at it as incidents. You can look at it as effects. You can look at it as just causes. You can say, there are lots of different ways you can go about this. You can even look at it from pleasure vexation. I mean, even that's the initial approach Guru Thero was going to take, but then he switched it, changed it slightly, deviated from it later on. So whichever, but ultimately what we have to understand is that everything we experience, every experience is not real. As in, I mean, we are not experiencing the world. That's what I'm trying to say. We are not experiencing the world that exists on the outside. No, the world and everything, the universe, everything happens in your mind. And that's what we have to understand. And that is it's conceptual, or it's just a mental fabrication, because it's fabricating the reality. So that's what we have to prove to the mind. That's why I said you are your universe. That's it. This is the universe. Like this thought, that is who you are, and that is the universe. The stars and the planets and all these kind of things, like these are just okay. It's the story. It's not. It's that's fiction. That's stuff that people just came up with. But that's not the truth. The truth is this. This perception is that's all there is. There is no past. There's no past. Like universe has no past. Universe has no present. Universe has no future. Because I mean, there's no such thing as the universe. Or like, if you were to talk about the world of energy, the world of energy has no past, present, no future. So that's it. But we can't comprehend that. But like, what we can comprehend is this. Is this perception? This perception is a manifestation. It's an effect. So that's why we always say, use a simple example and prove that it's an effect. Not it's an effect, but I have to say it like that. I have to word it like that. So prove anicca dukkha anatta nature to yourself. Prove that it's an effect. Prove that the flame doesn't exist. A fixed flame doesn't exist. Once you prove that to yourself, that is it. Then you will understand everything else. So I'd say master that example. Once you master it, then when you see something else, when you experience something, that knowledge will automatically will transfer to that moment. So that will come to awareness. So that's why we say we say samatha and vidarshana. Samatha is the contemplation of the Dhamma, like proving these concepts to the mind over and over again, and then awareness, it will come to awareness. Vidarshana, it will happen. You don't have to worry about it. There's not something we can force. Like if you don't know how to use a laptop, then you don't know how to use a laptop. First, you have to learn how to use a laptop, and then when someone gives a laptop to you, then yeah, you can use it. So that's the thing. Yeah. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed The Edge of the Universe. By the power of all the merits you've gained throughout this samsara, may you all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana in this very life and in the year of the Gautam Supreme Buddha itself. Bless you all.